The Dom Life Podcast presents Real Talk,
a BDSM Back to Basics mini-series intended for listeners 18 and older.
Welcome back, everyone. Hope
Yay.
everyone had a great holiday.
We did.
I know we sure did.
And I have my voice back.
You have your voice back. You are definitely feeling better now.
I am.
And then we had a pretty wild and amazing night last night, celebrating New Year's.
4 a.m. Who needs to be up at 4 a.m.?
Exactly. But just for our listeners, in case you don't already know, not only did we celebrate New Year's last night, but we was also celebrating our wedding anniversary.
I'm wearing the collar that you gave me at the wedding.
Yep, for the wedding 4 years ago.
That's crazy.
I know it. So let's get back into our episode where we left off. Again, apologies for not putting out an episode last week. We kind of found ourselves a little overwhelmed with the holidays.
Yes.
We had a lot going on, and although we hated missing it, it was for the best. So we're going to pick back up on it this week. On this episode where we left off, we was talking about how to be a good Dom.
Yes.
And I mostly went over everything because
I didn't have a voice.
you really wasn't up to.
So I'm going to do some talking tonight.
So you're going to do some talking tonight. But I kind of hit over, what I consider the traits of being a good dominant. I guess just kind of as a recap here, real quickly, we'll just go over the recap of the good dominance: self-awareness, know what you want and set expectations, communication, have to be a good listener,
respecting your submissive.
Yep, and I even added to that, it's respecting everybody.
Yes.
To me, in my eyes, to be a good dominant, you must have respect for everybody, regardless of who they are. You must understand safe, sane, and consensual. You must have your concern for well-being and safety of your sub.
And it tends to take over your life as a secondary part of your world, is making sure that I'm where I need to be in my headspace.
Right.
And
a good Dom should be confident. Second guessing is okay, and it's human nature.
It allows some open communication, but
right.
you
but
have
all
to
in
be
all, you need to be confident in what you want and your decisions. Willing to admit your mistakes and learning from it. Huge to be dominant. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to screw up. But being able to go to your submissive and say, I screwed up.
Yes.
Here's where I went wrong. This is what we're going to do to prevent that from happening in the future. It's going to happen. Everybody's going to make mistakes. Knowing your limitations to play and to punishments.
You do such a good job with me on that. And of course, even with new people, which we had a lot of last night, you recognize that they have limits, and they may not even know what their limits are because it's the first time they're experiencing it, or the second time they've used the electric wand. And so you're able to walk through that in baby steps with them by communicating. And I saw it last night, and even though I was hitting some sub drop, I wanted to stick around and let you do that.
Right. Talking and watching other Doms. Don't be in it alone. If you're a dominant, find other dominants that you like, can communicate well with, and hang out with, and start group chats.
Yes, you guys have one.
We have a group chat. It doesn't get used to its full potential.
But every so often there was a question that, hey, I want to ask about a punishment, or I want to ask about.
So it's great to have other dominants, opinions and views.
And then like Club Tempted, where we go all the time in the
Yes.
dungeon, there's a lot of men that watch what you do and
Yep.
how you do it. So even if they're not interacting with you, being able
They're
to
still
visually
watching it.
see how other people interact makes a big difference.
Exactly. And then the last thing I had for being a good Dom is self-control and patience and all of that. Although it ties into a lot of it, it mostly goes to your punishments. And we did talk about scene creation for punishment. Do not punish when you're angry
Right.
unless you have a huge amount of self-control where you can keep your punishment from crossing that line because
Yes.
of your anger or your frustration. So now let's just talk about some ways to see if you're not a good dominant. I will say this again. This is my opinion
Correct.
and your opinion.
Yes, because we kind of collaborate.
We collaborate on this, but don't take it to heart. If you're one of these people that do this,
It may just be something that you do and
it
it's
may
natural
be your
to
way, and if it works for you, great. But on the flip side of that,
you. These are just some red flags.
it may be time to do some self-reflection on yourself as well, though, because some of these things are brutal and are huge red flags. And it's not only our opinion. We have read it time and time again.
Yes, sir.
Through Facebook posts, through FetLife posts. So it's not like we just pulled these out of thin air. Some of these have been mentioned numerous times among many places that we visit.
Yes, sir.
So if you're meeting a dominant for the first time and you're going to start your vetting process, and the minute that dominant walks in, and let's say you call them by name.
Hi, Nick. Nice to meet you.
And they look at you and say, no, you will call me daddy.
Or master.
Yeah, or master or sir or your highness or whatever their dominant name is.
It's kind of a red flag.
That is kind of a red flag.
It's the first time you're meeting.
Your very first meeting, you've been communicating or you've met them online somewhere, somehow you've heard about them and this is their name. So keep that in mind. That to me is not a good dominant. I don't ask anybody to call me master.
No, that's me.
I go by Master Nick.
I gave you that.
You gave me that name. And it wasn't immediate. We had been together for a while and we was starting our BDSM dynamic. And it was, what are we going to call me?
There were
discussions. There was back and forth. And it took time to come up with a name. Now, I go by Master Nick. You will see on our website, I'm Master Nick. I don't ask or demand anybody to call me Master Nick.
No, sir.
If you come up and say Master Nick, this and that, I'm going to get a smile out of it.
Because that's what we came up with, and it's part of our world now because of the dom life.
I mean, even the people that I play with, I don't have any submissives, but the regulars that I do get the opportunity to play with, I don't even ask them to call me Master Nick.
No, sir.
If they want to call me Mr., if they want to call me Sir, if they want to call me Nick,
right,
I am perfectly good with that because I don't demand anybody to call me a name if I am not that to them. So red flag number one.
Next one, big one.
Next one's a
barking
big one.
orders.
Yes.
Barking orders, if we haven't negotiated, we're not talking about doing anything, and you just start telling me what I'm going to do.
Right. You're going to start doing this as a task, and you're going to do this for me every day, and this is what I want you to do. And yeah, that is not a good way to start off being a dominant.
Now, you can test the waters and request that they do something.
Right.
I would be very pleased if you would come dressed in a skirt because it pleases me. Would you do that for me?
Right.
So that's a totally different ball game.
That's a total different approach to it. But on the flip side of that, if you came not in a dress like I asked, I don't have a right to get mad.
Correct.
I can say, well, I was hoping you would wear this. But
It would be a little bit disappointing as a dom if you approached it that way and coached it that way, and a submissive isn't doing it. Then it means that already you've shifted the power.
But
like I'm agreeing that I want a power exchange. I'm meeting you. If you asked me kindly, if you barked out an order and said you are wearing a skirt tomorrow, I'd be like, watch.
Right. But also on the flip side of that, if it's our first meeting,
right.
Again, I can't.
And again, a lot of times when people are meeting for the first time, not always, but a lot of times right now with the online world, we're doing a lot of vetting online. We're chatting back and forth.
Some do and some don't.
Right.
So
because it might be somebody you know from a friend or whatever. But yeah.
All right. Another sign for a not good dominant. They're only in it for themselves.
What does that mean, Master Nick?
So we sit down. We've been chatting through text. Let's say we've chatted for 2 months through text.
Yes, sir.
And then we finally decide to meet.
Ooh, I'm so excited.
But I still really haven't asked what you want out of it.
Oh.
I don't know what you're looking to get. I don't know anything about you. I don't know your interests or your kinks or your wants or your desires. We've only talked about me.
Well,
and what I want as a dominant.
Ooh, that's kind of bad news.
So it's a give and take when first meeting, when first communicating. I want you to know about me. But if I want you to be my submissive, I'm going to want to know everything I can about you.
So that you are giving me pleasure and the dynamic works instead of breaks.
Right. Because if I don't know anything about you, you're not going to want to give your trust to me and give me all the control for our relationship.
Even if I do, if I'm naive enough and I give it to you, now I'm not getting what I need out of it. So it's going to not work anyways.
Red flag.
Red flag. Big one.
Okay, go ahead.
Not hearing the word no. If your dominant does not listen when you say your safe word, or before there's a safe word, if you say no and it does not stop when you guys have just met, you don't know each other real good, you don't have a safe word. There should be a safe word set up before you play.
Exactly.
But if this is just out in public and you say, no, I'm not interested in that, and they force you to order that coffee or have this pizza, I don't eat cheese, and they still go to a pizza place. Now, again, just like in a relationship, in a dominant submissive, it's even worse. That's not good.
And just for a good little thing here that I'm going to add on this, as far as no, and this is first meetings, first communications, you know, you're 1-2 months in, whatever the thing is, there's a difference between no and no.
Yes,
as a dominant, if you look me straight in the eyes and you use your hand to slam on a table and say no,
but even
me,
if I say
that is a definite no.
But even if I say no, you'll go, well, is that a hard limit or a soft limit?
Right. There's other ways around it.
There's communication. There's not pushing me just to push me.
But as a submissive, know the difference as well. If that is your hard limit, or if that even if it's a soft limit, don't be all pretty and bratty.
But that's what we do.
But if it's a no,
yes, sir.
Be firm about it.
Yes, sir.
That way there is no crossed lines.
I know, but that's a dominant
lines.
thing more than a submissive thing. I'm not arguing. I agree that's what's needed. But okay.
All right. And then not asking for your limits and accepting them. And this goes back to only in it for themselves.
Yes. They want their pleasure, but they're not worried about your...
If the dominant is not concerned about your limits, whether they're soft limits, hard limits, any of that, if they're not asking about any of your limits or what you're not into or what you haven't
One
done
of the big
before.
things that I would see is that a dominant could very easily push a submissive into doing something that they don't want to,
You can
because
coerce them.
we want to please most of the time.
Right.
Even the brats and the even that dynamic, you still want to please your dominant.
Right.
So if I do it, but then I'm in the corner crying, don't say, why are you being such a big baby? You said you'd do it. Like, if
Right.
you hear that, that's a red flag.
Right.
Not that you would ever do that to me.
Nope. All right. And the last thing to consider, online vetting is hard.
It is hard.
Text messages, emails, they can be taken multiple different ways. So it is hard. And the main thing you want to do, don't let anyone bully you.
That's not being a dominant.
That is definitely not someone being a dominant. If they're requesting you to call them something upon first meeting,
If they demand it.
if they demand it, what did I say?
Request. Now, if you request that I call you something, that's different than demanding me.
My bad. That's the 4 a.m. going to bed. Mine not quite working. Yes, if they demand to be called something, if everything is about them, watch out.
One of the things to be aware of, that even if you meet somebody and your dynamic is hot and it's wonderful and you're doing tasks for them and you're really into it and enjoying it, they may still not be the right dom as you get further down the road. Don't assume just because the initial dynamic works, but when you start expanding to include the real world activities, continually watch for that. Watch for what.
And if they can't grow with you on that fact, if you was bratty, like some of our feral friends that we
I'm
have,
not feral.
I don't have the energy for a bratty submissive. You do it on occasions.
You like that, though.
And on occasions, I like that. And I will say that again. On occasions, I like that. But if that was something 12, 15 times a day, every day, I would soon wear down. I would wear out, and our dynamic would not be able to grow any further.
I agree.
So adding on to what you said, yes, it may start off it may be the honeymoon phase of BDSM, and you will find that. But you will also find in some instances you don't grow together.
Just like in a relationship.
Yes. So keep that in mind as well. It doesn't hurt to end a dominant submissive relationship.
It does hurt.
No, but it's easier because you can't grow together and your likes are different than my likes.
But we've watched some of our submissives go through that.
It goes through communication, though.
Yes.
That's also where you find your good doms and your good submissives.
Communication.
I'm willing to change this if you change that. And that goes to the negotiation side of things, which will be a whole nother episode where we're going to renegotiate ours. We might want to do that one on a Sunday. We might want to do it on Sunday.
It's going to be a long one.
Yes.
Yes, master.
But like you said, keep that in mind. As you grow, as you expand, there's going to be things you don't like that the other person does. Doesn't mean it has to be completely called off. I get some of my sadistic traits out.
Yes, master.
Playing with other people.
Even with me, there are times when you'll push.
you can take it. Majority of times there is not, but there is times you can take it. So I enjoy having people that want the pain.
But there are some dynamics that don't include other people, which is what I'm trying to say. So then now you've got to figure out other ways. There are ways to be sadistic without being painful, without hitting me harder. There are sadistic ways to run a relationship that aren't about
do it mentally.
Right. That controls. So
keep all that in mind. Be careful when looking for a dominant. Dominants, be careful when looking for submissives. it can go both ways. Maybe we should do an episode in the future of vetting for a submissive and good
Yes.
submissive traits and red flags for submissives as well. So we make sure and help out the dominants on this. This one was really geared more towards what submissives should look for and how a dominant should act. Hope some of this helped. Let us know if you have any questions.
Happy New Year's.
Happy New Year, everyone.